Hi, welcome to another episode of Cast Talk. My name is David Lang. I am a home brewer and beer judge. This is Paul. Paul is a beer enthusiast, a friend of mine for a lot of years. So today we are going to be trying something new. We decided to go down the road of those beers that you walk by and go, wow, that might be interesting. And maybe you haven't got a chance to try this. We chose Motorhead Road Crew. It's brewed by Asylum. Paul, tell me a little bit about it. This was Paul's suggestion.
Yeah, well, I figured being a metal fan, I wanted to try some of the metal beers that were out there. Personally, I'm a huge fan of Motorhead. They put out a beer here in the US, but apparently it's been out in England quite a bit longer. It's brewed in the UK by a company called Cameron's. They teamed up with Motorhead in 15 and it's brewed in the US by a company called Ale Asylum in, where is it? It's Madison, Wisconsin.
It is a English band who makes an American style beer, originally brewed in England for American distribution, brewed in America. So it's just kind of an interesting scenario there.
Yeah, so anybody who's familiar with Motorhead, the last lineup was Phil Campbell, Mickey D, and of course Lemmy Kilmister. Lemmy was suffering major health problems the last couple of years of his life, actually ended up missing shows, and he was one of those professionals who never missed shows. And I saw them live, they absolutely freaking brought it and crushed. Phil Campbell and Mickey D were the ones who were doing a lot of the work on the beer itself, and nothing I found really indicated that Lemmy was involved in this particular product. I'm not saying he didn't, I'm just saying that the other two members were much more heavily involved. And this is an American Pale Ale, 5% by volume. It's supposed to be crisp, refreshing, packed with hoppy citrus aromas, according to the website. So without further ado, I say we crack it open and see what it looks like and tastes like.
This is a little bit more my style when it comes to certain beers. I'm not a huge fan of IPAs, and I think I've made that well known, as Paul has as well, being one of Paul's favorite beers. I do like pale ales because they're a little bit more moderate when it comes to the hop flavor and the bitterness. Allow a little bit more of the actual beer to come out in regards to some of the maltiness and the caramel notes. So we're going to take a look at it and see what it's like.
Hit the light. Let's see if you can clearly see what we're seeing there. It's a little on the cloudy side. It's not exactly clear, and it's a little bit on the browner side, but it's still quite yellow. A little amber.
Yeah, it looks like moderately carbonated. Certainly a lighter color, a little bit more towards the amber side than like a yellow pale. The cloudiness most likely driven from the hop content. So anytime you put lots of hops into beer, you're going to end up with a little bit of this cloudiness. And we talk about the hazy and some of these kind of terminology that they use around beer styles, and beer companies like to call their beers hazy when they're like this.
And according to what we found online, normally American pale ales outside of the U.S. use Cascade hops, and inside the U.S. they actually use a cleaner hop. So that's probably part of why it's a little on the cloudy side.
Yeah, I'm smelling a lot of Cascades. So I brewed this style quite a bit. I probably have like a pound of Cascades in my freezer.
It's a good smelling beer.
Yeah, that's one thing I do like about
it's got a nice hop smell to it.
Done really well. The Cascades are a beautiful hop for this use. Great aroma to it.
To be honest with you, it tastes almost identically the way it smells.
It's very reminiscent for me of a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, which is a lot of the same characteristics.
It's been a long time since I've had a Sierra Nevada.
A little bit grapefruit maybe.
It's definitely citrus behind it. It's not dry. I expect it to be a little bit more dry when it hits my mouth, but it's not that dry after it leaves.
It has that real signature cascadey bitterness too. So I'm really thinking that they may use that across the board, or they use something that probably complements it really well. But it definitely leans a little bit more towards that bitter side. So if you're like hops, you're going to taste that bitterness from the hops.
Yeah, if you like IPAs, this is a good beer. It's got okay lacing on the glass too.
It seemed to have a pretty decent head. Not a huge amount of lacing, a little bit here and there. It doesn't have the sweetness that I was kind of expecting in it. And well, obviously that's a lot of just kind of style. It's definitely leaned a little bit towards the bitter side. Has some good carbonation to it. You can kind of taste a little bit of that carbonic bite to it.
Yeah, it's not overly carbonated at all, but it's definitely there.
Not a lot of yeasty esters. There's not a lot of sweetness from the malts. You're not really tasting a lot of the caramelization out of it. It's certainly, I think, much better than, we'll say, a lot of light lager kind of beers.
Yeah.
Like I would certainly grab one of these before one of those if I had the option. If you are a pale ale enthusiast, if you are a IPA enthusiast, I could see you, I mean, obviously you probably couldn't find someone who's serving a pitcher of it. But if you're going to sit down and drink a pitcher or hang out all evening and you're just drinking one kind of beer, yeah, I could see doing that all evening. So it's not a bad beer. There's no any off flavors. It's not super remarkable, which I think in the beer world, everyone's trying to find that little one edge. I think when you look at the style, and the reason why I bring up Sierra Nevada is Sierra Nevada really has a legacy to the ownership of that kind of American style.
Yeah,
and it's really reminiscent of that because you can taste there's a lot of Cascade hops in it, which does have a little unique characteristic when you compare it to some of the other hops that are out there for spicing beers. It's good. I personally, if I was going to make anything different with it, I would probably add a little bit more sweetness to it. And maybe a little bit more caramel notes. That's a lot of my taste. I like a little bit more malty note to it because there's not a lot of malt presence.
It's definitely not a very balanced beer. It's a lot more to one side as far as flavor aspects of it. It's a lot stronger on the hops than anything else. I like it though. And honestly, we were eating fish earlier this evening, and this probably would have been an excellent beer to complement the cod. So
yeah, so like a really good whitefish, this would be a great beer to go with a whitefish. Real clean. It's not a fish with a lot of character to it, anyways.
yeah,
So something like that, and you're gonna bring in a beer that has character to it is the hops. I think that if you like pale ales, you could enjoy this all night long. And I think that the labeling of it's pretty cool.
well, yeah. Anything
I'm certainly not as big
snaggletooth on it is cool.
of a metalhead as my friend Paul here, but I certainly find a lot of the artwork really cool.
And the name of the beer actually comes from a song off their Ace of Spades album too. So if you want to hear the song, all you got to really do is look up Motorhead Road Crew, and either this will come up or the song will come up.
Interesting pickup for sure. Obviously, we walked by, we saw it, and said, "Hey, you know what? Let's give a shot at that." There's a few others that we have on our idea list that would be really fun to be able to get a chance to try them. I thought it'd be really cool to share it with you. If I was going to a party and I just wanted to, for whatever reason, stand out a little bit, have a conversation with someone, especially if I knew that there was lots of metalheads there, they may appreciate the choice of this beer. Paul, what do you think?
I think that would be the case. At least if I saw somebody drinking this, I would definitely be asking them, "Hey, what's going on with that one?"
So you saw this band like what, back in the 70s, right?
I'm not that old. No, I saw Motorhead, and they had Clutch open for them. Clutch brought it. I've seen Clutch I don't know how many times. Motorhead came out and just crushed it. Blew my mind. If you want to check out really good drum solo, look up Mickey D drum solos for Motorhead on YouTube, because this guy just insane drum solos. Like normally I want him to end. I didn't want him to end. I wanted him to keep going. He was he was kicking it. Please, as always, like, subscribe, share. Check us out on Facebook or on Instagram. It's Cask Talk. Have a good evening. Cheers.
Hey, our channel's growing. Thank you guys. Skull.
Like, subscribe, and share us. And as always, please comment below if you've tried it and you have any different opinions on it, and let us know of any suggestions you might have. We appreciate any input we can get. Have a good evening.